All right, everyone, we're going to get started now. So to start, welcome to our webinar for the Master of Earth and Energy Resource Leadership program at Queen's University. Let me introduce myself. So my name is Brittany Jennings, and I'm the program manager for the Master of Earth and Energy Resources Leadership here at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. We also refer to the program as MEERL, and we'll be using that short form throughout this webinar. To tell you a bit about myself, so I'm primarily responsible for the day-to-day operations of the program. I assist in the application process, and I help our faculty members with creating their course curriculum. So today we're hoping to answer any questions that you have about the MEERL program. I often speak to potential applicants on the phone to discuss the program at length. However, I also connect interested applicants with current MEERL students or alumni, as they can give you a much more honest look into what it's like to be a student. So also joining me today are current MEERL students. We have Troy McDonald, Maria Rosa Gobetes, and Mark Ottoman. All three students are part of our MEERL 21 group. So they started in the program in September of 2019, and they're just about halfway through. So before we get started today in the presentation part, I'd like to remind you that this webinar will be recorded. So tomorrow you'll receive an email from us that has a recording of the webinar. Feel free to pass it along to a friend or a colleague. And then if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box that's at the bottom of your panel there on your screen. All right, to start, I'm going to do a very brief overview of the MEERL program for anyone that's new that's joining us today. So the MEERL program is training future leaders in the oil and gas and mining industry. The program was initially created because the industry came to us with a need. They wanted a program that teaches you an overview of the industry and an understanding of the complexities and challenges without having to work for 20 or 30 years. The program is designed for professionals who know they want to stay in the energy and mineral sectors, and they want to broaden their skill set, take on a leadership role, or are currently in one. Since our students are professionals who have a job they love, and some even have families, meaning they can't move or leave work, the program was designed so that you can continue working while completing it. The MEERL program is part-time, online, and is completed within 20 months. So our students come from a wide range of backgrounds, and this is something we want. We want our students to be representative of the job diversity in the industry. We have students who are engineers for consulting companies and for major producers, students who work on rotation on sites in hydrogeology or surveying, or students who are hands-on project managers in mining. Some even work in policy, finance, or economic development. The MEERL students are generally a couple of years to 20 years into their career. All right, so now let's hear directly from some of those students that I'm referring to. So to start us off, Mark, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Mark Ottoman. I'm currently a supervisor of engineering and planning for Enbridge Pipeline's gas transmission and midstream maintenance program. The scope of my work is actually entirely in the US. I'm currently based in Edmonton, Alberta, though. I'm supposed to relocate to Houston at some point if the borders ever reopen, but we'll see about that. So I'm basically involved overseeing a group of project managers for both pipeline and facility maintenance work. A little bit of my background, I graduated in 2011 from the University of British Columbia with a degree in geological engineering. I then worked for an engineering consulting firm based out of Vancouver, working on the geotechnical aspects of hydroelectric and transmission projects. In 2014, I joined Enbridge, where I currently work. And I guess an interesting note is I was just promoted to my current role, and I like to say I did it on myself, but I know that MEERL actually played quite a large part in it. So.
Awesome, thanks, Mark. Maria Rosa, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Maria Rosa Gobetes. I'm also a geological engineer like Mark. I graduated from Colorado School of Mines back in 2012. I also got a minor in mining engineering, just because even before college, my interest was always mining. I worked as a geological engineer in IPSO for over 3 years in the Denver office. And when I worked there, that was a very technical job, but it made me focus on tailing management and slope stability, and a little bit in permitting, which are now, as most of us know, some challenging issues in the industry. And then after that, I started out with McKinsey as a research analyst in New York. Um, Over there, I focused on the analysis of the supply for base metals and precious metals. And I just recently joined Azul Partners. This is my first week at the job, and I'm still a research analyst, but now I'm focusing more on the market analysis and the price direction, just to help clients mitigate risk and reduce costs. And actually, they found me through LinkedIn, which I think was definitely part of MEERL had a big part in it, because it was one of the homeworks for the first module of 807. And yeah, they just found me through LinkedIn, and I got a new job in the middle of the pandemic. So I just started. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Maria Rosa. And Troy, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm the finance guy, I guess. So my background is I'm a chartered accountant and I'm a CFA chart holder. I got those a couple of years ago. My career started going to U of A to do my commerce degree, and then I went to articling at Grant Thornton. After that, I went to Gibson Energy, and I was in corporate planning. So I did our I helped with strategic planning and our forecast and reviewing capital projects. And I've been at Tourmaline Oil Corp for the last 6 years. My responsibilities include debt syndicate management, so dealing with all the bankers. I'm also responsible for our sustainability reporting. So worked the last 4 months on releasing our second sustainability report. So a lot of exciting things, and yeah, that's about basically me.
Perfect. Thanks, Troy. So we're going to get going into some questions. And anyone who's joining us today, if you have a specific question you want asked, you can go ahead and throw it in the Q&A box. And every once in a while, I'll pull some of your questions from there too. So Mark, let's start with you. What do you think is the top, what's the top industry challenge that you're seeing in your industry? And how did that influence you, MEERL?
For me, there's two major things I see. I work in the pipeline industry, so it's quite highly visible. Sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry, I got to jump off here for a minute. Can you come back to me?
Yes, I definitely can.
I'm getting my ducks clean, so.
Troy, do you want to go ahead and take this one?
Yeah, for sure. The most challenging things we're seeing in the industry. So I'm in oil and natural gas. I'm mostly natural gas, and I live in Calgary. So it's been very challenging times, and with COVID, it's been even more challenging, just with the drop in oil demand and oil prices. I think we're seeing a couple of issues again. What's the long-term future of oil demand with renewable energy coming online, and what does driving vehicles look like in 30 years? Is it combustion or is it electric vehicles? And the second challenge we see is just a perception issue. If Canada is the most sustainable and ethical oil and natural gas oil in the world, we have a perception problem, and I don't think there's really a solution to it. It is what it is, which is very challenging and it's hard to accept. And I think those are probably the two biggest factors that are hurting the oil and gas side.
Okay, so I'm going to build on that, Troy. So why did you decide to join the program? Was it because of these challenges that you see, or?
Yeah, I think a part of me I'm a lifelong learner. I always think you just got to keep on developing yourself, and I'm still quite young. I'm in my lower 30s, and I see a sector that I love to work in that's just very challenged. So I thought MEERL was a great transition from my finance background to understand more of the geological side, but also kind of understand the more complexities. There's a class on communications and looking at indigenous issues and reconciliation. And it's just, to be good in this field, you need to know a vast array of data and information to sound sophisticated and smart at a table. And we all want credibility when we talk to senior management.
Okay, thanks, Troy. So Maria Rosa, can you tell us about completing your courses online and how the online process has been?
Yeah, so I find it that it's really great that you have the chance to organize your time. So for example, if you definitely have time in the evenings, you can work on the evenings online, but then at least in my case, I usually am very busy from Monday through Friday. So at least I get all Saturday and Sundays to catch up, and it hasn't been an issue. Like you still have enough time to do the work and still be outside and enjoy your weekend. It's demanding enough that you're busy, but it's not overwhelming. And yeah, I think the pace is pretty good, and yeah, it definitely is a good balance. Yeah.
Okay, to build off that a bit, Mark, this is probably the question I get asked the most when I'm talking to potential MEERL candidates. Can you speak to your experience about managing work and the program at the same time and how that's been?
I'm almost positive I asked you this before I joined as well. So I bet it's at the top of mind to a lot of people. So admittedly, it's difficult, especially at first, to strike that balance, but it is doable. People are graduating. We're halfway through, which I can hardly believe. It does require some sacrifice and some effective time management. To Maria's point, I think you have to, personally anyways, I think you have to chip away at it a little bit at a time, try to do a little bit every day so you can stay on top of everything. But as long as you're ready for that and the people in your personal lives are ready for that, it is certainly doable and it is rewarding.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Troy, I'm going to put you on the spot. How is it with having a family? Just, we can see in the background all the toys like behind you too. So
COVID has changed my life more than people realize. I work here and my daughter's running around, and it's no daycare right now, so it's a bit of a challenge. I have a great wife and a great support network. I think my wife tired of me doing courses because I've done my CFA when we were married, and I don't think she loved that because that involved a lot of studying. Yeah, I find the workload's challenging, but it's definitely doable. A lot of times it's just not procrastinating, it's just biting. What's the best way to eat an elephant? You just take a little bites at a time. So I find the first semester was the most challenging time-wise because there was a lot to digest. But now that we're in a routine and we have a good cohort of people that if we all kind of agree that the timelines are too tough, we'll all agree on WhatsApp, and then we'll talk to the professors. And everyone has been very accommodating to our requests. I think everyone understands we're professionals on the side and we're doing this. So yeah, I think it's definitely doable. I mean, there's some moments you'll probably hate it for a couple of days, but other than that, it's been really great.
okay, that's awesome. Thanks, Troy. I'm going to keep going here. So Maria Rosa, are there things that you have learned in the program that you've been able to directly apply to your work environment, like as you're going through the course content?
Yeah, definitely. I think definitely the most impactful was from the technology class. That homework really, I mean, it definitely helped me get a new job. Other than that, it has really helped me because the mining industry in general now is facing so many challenges with jurisdictional problems. You see how the supply shifts to countries, at least in my case, from my job point of view. You see how the investment changes to certain countries, certain areas, and sometimes, if you want to understand why, you have to understand the issues that are not necessarily operational at all. They're various. They have to do with political issues and permitting issues that are more jurisdictional. And yeah, it just gives you a broader perspective of the challenges that are not necessarily strictly operational when it comes to mining. And it also, I mean, I think I knew it, but I didn't fully understand the important role and how connected mining and energy really are, and the consequences that the oil industry have in the mining industry as well. It's definitely helped me understand it much better.
I can add something as well that really stood out to me is almost the immediate application of business strategy and looking at how companies operate from a corporate level and really having a better understanding of that and why they make some of the decisions they make. And it's really helped me be able to speak to that in my day-to-day job and try to connect what I do at work to the longer term strategy for business planning. And to me, that was quite an eye-opening piece of knowledge that we learned in the course. So.
Yeah, and I'll just add 805. When I was working on our sustainability report, we added corporate goals at Tourmaline, and it was a very challenging task to find and discover corporate goals that we could achieve. And in 805, by chance, one week was a research paper that was talking about the liabilities from the board and management on making goals. And that was very applicable to my job at that moment, and it just worked out perfectly. And that report or that research paper even went to our board, so it helps a lot with us developing our sustainability corporate goals.
Okay, thanks everyone for contributing to that one. Okay, so Mark, next one's for you. So the extractive industries are always in the news, and there have been some major events that have popped up since you have started in the program. Can you speak to how those events have maybe been incorporated into some of your course content?
Certainly. It's quite amazing if you flip on the news or open a newspaper, especially in Canada, you almost see daily news about the natural resource industry, and it's often in a negative light, and the narrative around it is quite negative. Like I was, before I rudely left, as I was saying, I work in the pipeline industry, which may be the most visible industry of all for whatever reason. And so these events that happen while we've been in the program, we saw some of the protests related to Indigenous reconciliation and how that impacted the industry. And we've seen some of the stakeholder management issues, and they really help frame the discussions we have and put the concepts we're learning into context. And again, it's almost an immediate connection of what you're seeing in the news to your job and what you're learning in the program.
Thanks, Mark. And I'd even add in, I just remember this because I was there, that in the one of the courses, Operating Effectively, Law, Policy, Ethics and Operations, our professor was speaking to you about the railroad issues, right? And like she did a bonus live session where she was just like, let's sit down and talk about what's kind of going on. And I remember that you were there and asking her opinion on it. So that was something cool that she was able to incorporate as well.
And
okay.
And she listened to my feedback even when my opinion didn't match hers, so.
Exactly. All right, I'm gonna jump over to the Q&A here because I got a couple of questions here. And so what what surprised you about the MEERL program after you started? I'm just going to throw that out to all three of you. I'd like to hear that, but maybe we'll start with Troy.
What surprised me the most? Well, nothing surprises me anymore with COVID and what's happening in the world. Everything's different, but I think surprised me how well online programs work. I was quite hesitant about it. I think we all were. And you look at work from home now with COVID and doing courses online, it all kind of comes together. So the biggest surprise was it's actually still quite effective. Like when I go back to my younger university days, there was the social aspect, but I think we have a couple beers once in a while on a WhatsApp chat. So it's all pretty much the same. So I just think the biggest surprise is that online works pretty well.
Do you want to go, Mark?
Sure, I will go. I think something that I was initially apprehensive about that has worked out really well is the group of people that we're in the course with, and how we've been able to work together effectively. I was, like I say, a little bit apprehensive about working in groups with people. We're scattered all over North America. You don't know each other going into the program, so you don't know what that's going to be like. But I think everybody's like-minded enough in the sense that they know why they've taken the program. It's not an undergraduate exercise in survival. Really, both the professors and the other students are really out for everyone to succeed. And I think that's really what's been, and maybe the most startling to me anyways, is just the effectiveness of working together and everybody trying to achieve the same thing.
Yeah, I think similar to what Mark said, I think it's been great how we managed to have a really good team, even though we only met probably for like 1 week at first, and then we've managed to do pretty well online, and it's like we were in the same place almost. I think the most shocking thing for me when I first started, I forgot how much we wrote on the first semester. It's been, I don't know, I'm an analyst, so I look at Excel and numbers all day, and I write maybe once in a while like a little paragraph something, and I rephrase it once in a while. I just change numbers. And the first semester we wrote a lot of essays, at least 3 full essays, and that was different for me. It took me a while to get used to writing that much again, especially from an engineer background. And actually it's great because now my new job, I have to write, and I feel like I'm in better shape than if I would have started writing like this much 2 years ago even. Yeah, but yeah, it was great.
Okay, thanks, Saran. We're just going to do maybe one more of my questions, and then we'll jump back over to the Q&A. So Mark, can you speak to maybe the interactions between the students and the instructors, and how you've gotten to know the instructors, and if they're flexible and kind of that sort of side?
The instructors are amazingly approachable. Troy touched on it a little bit, where they're quite flexible in the sense that they understand what we're going through. And again, their intent is not to drive us into the ground. It's really for us to get something out of the program. Our interactions with them, from my perspective, have been quite casual. It's a lot of discussion, and it's been really refreshing from that standpoint. They really want to have a discussion about these topics, not tell you what to think about them. And they give you the tools to do that. And so I think that, coupled with the flexibility, has made it that much more enjoyable.
Okay. All right, I'm going to jump back over to the Q&A here. And this is a big question that I get asked a lot, and it's hard for me to always put this into words. So I'm going to throw it out there, and whoever feels comfortable answering, that would be great. So how do you see the MEERL program aiding in your professional development as you progress through your career?
Okay, I'll start then. So this is a really personally a very pertinent question to me because I just, like I mentioned, I was just promoted into my first, technically my first people leader role. So really my first professional leadership role. And one of the questions they asked me in the interview was about empathy. And I don't think before MEERL, I would have even considered empathy a trait that you needed for effective leadership. And it's something we discuss in the first semester. So it's things like that you're not going to find in maybe a technical professional development program. Like for instance, like I have my PMP designation as well, but that's not the kind of thing you would talk about in that type of program. So that's what part of what makes MEERL so unique is the application of concepts you maybe didn't think about beforehand.
Okay, I think I'm going to keep going so we can get through a couple more of these quickly. So I'm going to answer this next one. Did you get financial support from your companies? And so just to respect our students, I will say that about half the MEERL students get financial support from their companies. And that's across all of the students that we've had in the program. But that also varies. Sometimes it's not full financial support. I've had students who their companies have actually allowed them to work one less day, but still be paid the same amount. That was their contribution towards that student being in the program. And so I've seen different combinations of the ways companies will support students. And then the next one, I'll answer this one as well, but I wouldn't mind if someone jumped in too. So what percentage of work is done with colleagues from your group? And how is it to manage across different schedules and work together across different time zones? So typically within each MEERL course you do, we try to incorporate at least one group activity or group assessment. Sometimes there's more than one, and I think there might even be a course or two that don't have any at all, but we're trying to incorporate into every single one. Thankfully, with the cohort that we're talking to right now, everyone is only within 2-hour time zone of each other, so 2-hour difference. But we thankfully try to schedule everything in evenings to get it after work time on the West Coast. So we try to do, 5 p.m. on West Coast, so 7 or 8 on the starting to get into East Coast in Ontario. But I'm wondering if anyone else can speak to that about working together in the groups and time zones and work schedules. Troy, you're gonna answer this one.
Yeah, it works. We're on WhatsApp and we schedule it. And again, I think what Mark said is that it's a graduate program, so everyone's quite professional and courteous, and we basically arrange times to meet. And everyone has done relatively well. I mean, everyone's accountable, and we know life happens, and if they can't make it, they tell us. But yeah, I think there's been no issues. And I mean, I'm sometimes anti-group because my whole life has always just been like study by myself. But yeah, I think it's been great. So everyone in this program who gets in is pretty smart, and they know what they're here for, and they all want to kind of get it done and move on to the next project.
Okay, thanks, Troy. So I'm just going to hang out now here for a minute. If anyone has any last questions they'd like answered, please go ahead and throw them in the Q&A box. And in the meantime, while we let people write those down, I'm going to ask, so Maria Rosa, I'm going to ask this to everybody, but Maria Rosa, any final thoughts that you would want to tell potential applicants about the program?
I think this is a great combination, like you mentioned at the beginning. Like if you're missing a bunch of classes, if you're coming from a very, very technical background, or you want to just get immersed in what the issues in the industry are, this is a great program that I think, for example, an MBA wouldn't give you because it's just so broad and doesn't doesn't go down into the issues that the energy and mining sector see all the time, which are very specific to the industry as well. I don't think, for example, the financial industry or the construction industry faces these kind of challenges. So yeah, I think it's a really good program for that. Yeah.
All right, Mark, final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think there's very many programs like it tailored to the natural resource industry. To Maria's point, in an MBA, you might not get that. And also the 20-month timeline is a little bit more appealing. And the final aspect of it is really what a well-renowned university Queen's is. There's a little bit of prestige that comes with a degree from Queen's University. And I mean, that's part of the reason what attracted us, I think, all to the program. So something else to consider.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Prestigious, it's great. And I think, especially in my seat, we're all very proud of Canadian oil and gas and our natural resource sector. And there's a lot of viewpoints that a lot of people who would disagree with my opinion. And this program really helps you look at different stakeholders from their perspectives. And I mean, this is ultimately a communication program. Our communication issue, but do we resolve it? I don't know. But trying to understand where other people are at just makes you more well-rounded. And when you're making decisions, you can consider those perspectives. Because I mean, if you don't, you could have project delays, you could have protests. It's a very challenging sector. So the more you know about the soft side of what's going on and how to manage it, what you can manage, it just makes you better at the table.
Okay, thanks, Troy. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Feel free to reach out to me if anyone has questions about the program. I'm more than happy to set up a phone call to discuss if the program is the right fit for you based on your background. Applications are now open and they are closing on June 30th. So we have just over a month left. And I'd like to thank Troy, Mark, and Maria Rosa for joining us today. Thanks for your time and your insights, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their evening. Thanks for tuning in.